The adage goes that if you look for anything, you will find it. It doesn't matter what you're looking for. The moment you make up your mind to discover it, it'll make itself clear to you. This is true for most things. Though the world is vast, its contents are fine, and if something has been conceived, it will make itself clear in time. Go from being an undefined concept to a well-defined and understood reality. And if you want it, you'll get it. Only a matter of time. I comb through the racks regularly with an astute and well-versed eye, looking for odd things, things which are not coated in spiderwebs but are just old enough to elicit an uncanny quality. A few decades back, maybe. Just enough time to alienate the viewer. Any earlier than that and the viewer has nothing to relate to. Napoleon's ghost is about as real to the participant as Grimace. But give the viewer something to care about and they'll sit up and take notice. Show the viewer a celebrity they're familiar with doing something they'd never in a million years imagine the celebrity doing. But they'll believe it because it was a while back, and who knows who did what then. Remind the viewer of what they were doing right before 9/11. Get a little deeper. Remind them that odds are there was a time that they existed when they had no idea 9/11 was going to happen. Temporarily speaking, a version of them that is out there who doesn't know the significance of that date. I run a parlour of ephemera, a bijou of obscurity. I will not name names, but let me say that if you're the curious type, you'll run into my establishment. I'm in your town and I operate there, whether you want me to or not. I stock a full legal team who clear all the tapes I screen, and on a good night, I can compete with the big budget movie houses. Despite our location on the seamy side of town, we often see people pass through our double swing doors who you probably know. Many of them arrive here thinking that they're in for a blue movie. We have some, don't get me wrong, but we have so much more. Content that is shocking not because it offends or is connected to any rational human fear, but rather because it is hardwired by some mad programmer in a forgotten studio to unsettle. If you look for Joyce, you will find her. I found her in a bulk of old 10 programs, all treasures, each one ensuring hours of perverse delight for our clientele. She stood out of the case, had this sort of look in her eyes. She wasn't looking at the camera, but she wasn't looking past it either. She had her eyes right on the edge of the lens, where the outside world and the celluloid world meet. I knew right away that she had the ability. Nobody would intentionally look for her here, not unless they were trying. I brought the whole kit and caboodle, but especially looked forward to seeing her. She could elevate my establishment in the ratings. My lawyer sits back in his room, wondering how he had wound up in such an enclosed and claustrophobic space. The building is set back in a row of other shops in such a way that the window directly behind my dear counsel gives way only to 2 inches of fresh air before it meets a featureless brick wall. The sky is up there somewhere, but he can't see it because he can't stick his head out of the window. This disturbs him. He feels that either the wall behind him should be solid brick, or there should be no window, as the window serves a no functional purpose. I, of course, know the truth. It does serve a functional purpose, that being the purpose to unnerve. It's doing pretty well. He's sweating bullets, and he's on his 5th screwdriver of the day. New lot, I announce, setting them on the desk in an unorthodox fashion. 10 of these. Want you to look at them, check them out, get back to me on this. This one too. Both of them look good. I point to Joyce and to one which promised untold wonders, courtesy of the Illuminati. Neither look as if the feds could bust us for them. Of course, here ratings are non-existent. How do you rate men walking in treadmills eternally against a black background that never changes? You want to get ruined? Keep it up, he says. Can't wait to pop more of these things in, subject myself to this never-ending torment. Looks like a cool group this week. Where do you find these things? Trade secret, I smile, cross over to the wall and slide the tapes in one by one, for me to know and you to learn, gradually. The machine then takes them, duplicates them, slides the material over the drum and gets to work. In 5 minutes I'll have master copies of all 10. Those will go in my vault for future generations to uncover. Before then, though, I can watch them and get some kicks out of them, while he can suffer just as much, if not more, given his persistent evasion to the tapes of this nature. While he knows none of them are illegal, he always feels that they should be, through some loophole or catch. In the 8 years he's been working with me so far, though he's never found one, and he hasn't been acclimatized to the environment either. I look him over as the machine hums silently. He's diminutive, 5'5", might be attractive for his age if he didn't drink so much. His hair is combed back and his tie is nearly choking his neck. His suit is thoroughly starched, and on the wall behind him, he displays his degree, as if anyone besides myself would ever visit his office. Next to him he keeps a personal fan. It can get hot in here sometimes. There's very little ventilation, just the way I like it, closed and no way out. I've only undergone one fire inspection since opening, and the sergeant told me that the building was fire safe, but if it weren't for a few key details, it would bust open into a spontaneous inferno. Life on the edge can be hard to master. As I take the tapes out and hand my counsel the originals, I reflect on how every aspect of my life and work had been precariously arranged to unsettle outsiders. The hallways outside are long and claustrophobic. They contain subtle optical illusions that make the occupant feel nauseous and displaced. The seats are barely too small. Some of them are barely too big. The projectors have been tampered with to make a grotesque noise as they spin that someone could miss if they weren't paying attention. All part of the experience. The entire building is set to the row so that there are no glimpses at the exterior. If someone has the guts to explore past the initial chain of auditoriums, they are led into a simple yet clever labyrinth that ends at the same brick wall my legal team is currently sitting in front of. They will come to the end and then walk back, and all the while they will be disturbed. I step into the waning day as storm clouds gather overhead. The street is empty and it's getting windy, though the summer heat continues. Soon night will fall and the lamps will come back on, but in the meantime they remain dark. The world is a place of shadows and secrets. Down the block, a few couples leave a mediocre diner. They say goodbye and get into their respective cars, and then drive away from the city centre, out towards the suburbs. I am reminded of how the centre is much older than the outer rim, gentrified and sterile, how the city has its own peculiar charm, and how my establishment is yet another example of a dwindling class of locals, designed to give one an experience. In this, the modern age, atmosphere is often neglected. I will keep it. It will not die under my watch. A bus pulls up like a forgotten phantom in the grainy twilt mist. Twin spotlights flood my field of vision, a ghost vessel in the fog. As I embark on the excursion, the clouds give way, and the windshield is pelted by drops of all shapes and sizes. Coming faster than the earth can account for, the street is now nearly invisible, washed out in a blur of pastel haze. I hand the driver my money and take a seat. On my way home I can hear a drunken man singing a song I have forgotten the lyrics to. Outside, the atmosphere is bombarded with a stew of negative ions, battling and fighting. The scent is contagious. It is the next day. I have eaten a rigorous breakfast and come to work early, before anyone can arrive. I check my watch and dash to the closet auditorium. Room C. This one has entertained countless guests. In fact, according to popular opinion and what I hear every so often, in casual whispers and murmurs, it's nearly the favourite. Something unique in each offering a separate and a replicable experience. I slip the tape in and the projector lights up. Make sure all the switches are arranged just so. All the dials are turned up optimally. Yes, there it goes. I exit the booth and walk back down the narrow staircase that no one besides myself can access. I sit down, make myself comfortable, and breathe in and out deeply. The air in here is stifling. The fans overhead move too slow to circulate anything. The lights installed in the walls are never completely dim. They're always visible in the corner of one's eye. I should know, I installed them. The room is large. I'm infinitesimally tiny by comparison. The screen blinks to life in a surge of photonic activity. My face is lit and I am greeted by Joyce. She sits larger than life, 30 feet above me in unparalleled quality. She is as morose as I am alone, as I had expected given the picture on the cassette. But there is a spark of life about her too. She sits in a modest dress on a nondescript piece of furniture. Can't make out if it's a bed or a couch. Background is hazy, lots of noise. She sits silently for a while, studying me, watching me. I watch her. Below my arms are the armrests, and on them I release a profuse amounts of nerve juice. My pulse is racing, and my eyes are glued to her. I know that what I'm seeing is nothing more than magnets and fiber optics, circuit boards glued together, chips and buttons. Somewhere out there, there may be a real Joyce. She's probably a lot older now, but not by much. If I passed her on the street, I could recognize her, but I know I never will because she lives hundreds of miles away. She has a husband, maybe children, lives in a home, goes to work. She is a real person. What I see is not her. What I see is a moment captured in time, like a mosquito trapped in amber. One snapshot into one perspective. For further information, call your travel agent. And all the while she scrutinizes me with those endless inkwells. She's also staring right at the border, the boundary between reality and the semblance of reality, just as the picture did. The theatre begins to fade out. This happens every so often. I'm used to it by now. Usually it only happens when we're not open. My clothes become transparent. The location of the theatre lends itself to all manner of parlour tricks. Peculiar vibrations, disturbances in the ether, call them what you want, but they've been observed. Whether Joyce is behind the event, I can't say for sure. She remains complacent and still. The anomaly reaches its peak. The year is 1993, and I'm sitting across the room from her. Outside, the sun is shining and the sky is blue. It is a bed. Next to her is a small bureau, with lipstick and a mirror on it. Outside, I can hear nothing. There is an uncanny silence to the room. No noises outside. No noises inside, save the ticking of the clock on the wall. She is clad in a dull grey skirt and casual shoes. Her hair flows over her shoulders, and her eyes are empty, dark, meaningless. If they're the window to the soul, then she has none. How's it been so far? Fine, I respond without thinking about it. Granola this morning, new kind with added fibre, also half a banana. Threw the other half away, figure I didn't need it. Oh, and toast with butter. My toaster's on the fritz again, but I put it into the microwave and it works roughly the same, give or take a few minutes. You? Excellent as always, she replies. Living here is the greatest decision you've ever made. Life is good. People are happy. I'm happy. Her voice is fuzzy and distant, as if she was talking to me over a cheap AM radio. She looks to the side, the first time I've seen her head move. Through this action, she becomes human, or something at the very least resembling human. My chest falls as I lean back in my chair at ease. We stare at each other once more, and she remains steadfast, rigid. This world cannot be interacted with. I could no more walk out of those sliding doors than a man could taste the salt of ancient Persia. She is remotely aware of this. I can tell by the way her face is tilted, and her expression has a note of humour to it. Sick humour. Morbid and vile. You know what, Joyce? What? I know the game you're playing, I respond confidently, though the words are only partially my own. You believe that this world has been written away to you by law, and that you own it, and you hold the rights to it, and every day is a new opportunity to take advantage of the people around you. You play with them like a fiddle. I can tell by the way you behave. She uncrosses her legs, lies back, and contemplates the ceiling, with those devoid shells of hers. Damn, you're good. She opens her mouth, and what comes out is not laughter, but some kind of belligerent noise, a ringing that makes the ear fall apart and the mind reel. And in this moment, I'm convinced that she holds a dark secret, a secret that, if revealed, would make sense of all of this. She goes back, the noise dies down, the room fades out, and the static rises until I'm surrounded by a sea of grey fibre, and then I am reclining once more in the theatre seat. It squeaks slightly as I let go of the armrests. The screen sputters out until it is muted, dark grey, and the smell of smoke permeates the air. Behind me, the projector turns itself off. I let out a few short gasps. Really knocked the sense out of me. My head is foggy as I retreat up the staircase and retrieve the tape out of the slot. I put it back in its case, then walk out the back and into the vault where I keep our most successful releases. I can already tell that Joyce is my kind of woman. The days pass and the bad weather continues. Every night the lights go out spontaneously, and when I walk through the hallways, carrying upcoming projects or concessions, she is there with me. As the crowds pour in, many of them simply to escape the deluge, I hear her cold voice whisper in my ear, her hands on my arm, spot the shadow of her form in the lobby where the shadow has no right to be. There are many people here tonight. A few are gathered around the soda machine. Some huddle en masse near the table. Some scratch their heads as they gawk at the strange posters. I designed them on my own, made sure to incorporate some nightmarish and grotesque elements. pasted in some mixed media, courtesy of a local magazine I subscribe to. The key figure tonight is a gentleman with rumpled clothes wearing a hat too small for his head. He hasn't shaved in a week and he has bad breath. People shun him as he steps in from the outpour and crosses the rug. He drenches it. I can tell that he is a man deserving of a private screening, all to himself. He takes out some crumpled money and lays it onto the counter. I smile and scoop some free popcorn for him. I then take him by the back and guide him past the lobby and into the row. "Come here often?" I ask. He walks slowly with the sign of someone cautious who looks before they leap. He'll be ideal for a certain tape I found last month. A Mondo film which illustrates in vivid detail the slow, ritualistic process of infestation. "Heard about it," he says. "First time here. Ad in the class fields. Don't think nobody looks through them anymore." He's lying, of course. I never place ads. He came here to escape the flood and get some heat. Probably hasn't read a newspaper in his life. He coughs into his elbow, wears a tattered navy jean jacket and slacks. Ideal material. "In here, sir," I recite softly as I push the door open for him. He holds the popcorn and walks down the aisle, takes his hat off and looks around in the darkness. As I stand at the door, he looks distant, fading. This one is designed to amplify the sense of the perspective, such that someone in the back row will see the people in the front row as they might from an aeroplane, tiny and far away. This illusion took years to master, but now that it's been done, no one can tell me otherwise. Really hurts your head. I head up to the booth and take out the Mondo tape. The wheels turn and he sits down there, motionless. My work here is done. I return to the lobby and escort the other guests to their rooms. Soon the process is complete. All auditoriums are packed, all save the one with the loathsome wanderer. And it looks as if business is doing better than it has in years. The night wears on and outside the street is pelted with rain. The lobby is illuminated by a few bulbs, but every corner is filled with shadows, and the cash register monitor glows a dark blue-green before me. The popcorn smells delicious tonight. I take a single kernel from the machine and try it. My lawyer walks down the stairs and pauses to admire the posters. He puts his head on his brow and lets out a deep sigh. My determination is what unnerves him. My ceaseless business acumen. In his hand he holds a suitcase, probably full of more tapes. Tapes which could potentially land him in prison. He knows they won't though. He won't be getting off that easily. "Good crowd tonight." "Sure is," I respond. Doesn't happen so often anymore. The house getting packed. We've gone under the radar. Only makes these nights a whole lot sweeter by contrast. Right now, 200 people back there with their eyes affixed to analog wonders. Does the heart good. I cross to the back and get a soft drink from the fridge. Water droplets have condensed on its surface. I tilt my head back and let it run down my throat. "Your heart, maybe," he mumbles with a bitter tone. "You're the one getting paid. I get the scraps." "And what about them? Do they matter to you? Are your torture chambers functioning properly? Is your sick mind satisfied with your designs? Have you given any consideration to them?" From behind us comes a loud scream, though whether it was artificially produced is uncertain. This is followed by a few moments of soft moaning. "Make me sick," he finishes. "Hey, hand me one of those." I comply. He takes it out and swallows the whole thing, then tosses the bottle into the trash can and walks out of the door. His footsteps echo down the street and make little noises in the puddles before the entrance swings shut on its pneumatic hinges, and I'm left alone in the lobby with nothing but my own thoughts. The fans spin overhead, creating a hypnagogic effect, and outside the rain continues, obscuring everything but 3 feet of sidewalk and a fire hydrant. To entertain myself, I pull out my ledger and start calculating my profits and expenditures. I didn't tell him this because if I did, he'd probably quit on the spot, but I'm very close to going under. Variations in the ether or no, the taxman comes, and when he comes with a vengeance. Tonight's crowd, it seems, has delayed the inevitable. My thoughts are interrupted by the creaking of chairs and the approaching footsteps. How time flies when you're doing simple arithmetic. The people filter out like sheep from a gate. Their faces are wrinkled and disgusted. They groan. A few pop their backs. A group of college students with piercings and fashionable outfits express their angst by looking around like rabbits in a trap. Some feign etiquette by waving at me and thanking me for a good time. I wave back and tell them to come again soon. They exit. The man I pushed into the premium viewing comes out. He's the most shaken of all, perhaps. His eyes are like a rabid dog's. They twitch and buzz as he stares morosely at the red carpet. I know her. He trembles and sways. Know who? That woman. The one in the room. Talks to you very slowly until you give up. Don't ask me how, but I do. That's impossible. I scoop myself a bag of popcorn and sit down. You weren't watching anything about a woman in a room. It was about ant torture and the like. Gruesome stuff, yes, but nothing like what you describe. He pulls his hat over his eyes and buttons his coat. He wants to make a hasty exit. Watch yourself, he crows, pointing in my direction and looking out at the rain, backing towards it. She's trouble. He makes a mad dash for the door, pushes it open and runs like a bolt. I eat my popcorn. Another day rolls around and I unlock my facility. I am tempted to view the tape again. It is a morbid curiosity, or as Poe put it, the imp of the perverse. Joyce is an imp, all right. She's the devil in disguise. The lobby is dusty. I can't remember the last time I vacuumed. Not worth taking care of. Dust finds a way in no matter how much you try to keep it out. I wander upstairs. The calm whir of the air conditioners surrounding me in every direction. The walls closing in. I reach my office and look inside. It's a modest room, nothing to write home about, but it's important to me. I cross it and head back to the vault. The vault is located in an area so close to the end of the building that the distance isn't worth mentioning. It's greased and locked tight. It's equipped with a lock that even the best locksmith couldn't break. And it's filled with my hoard. Joyce is staring at me. She looks chipper as I carry her over to screening room 4 and pop her into the slot. She was in the vault last night, I'm sure. I'd planned on showing her, but I hadn't taken her out yet. Lawyer still hasn't cleared her for safe release. I'm not sure if I feel safe showing her myself. She might be too dangerous, even for me. The screen flickers on and I clutch my box of candy. The apprehension is killing me. The tension is like a thread about to be snapped by the fates. In the anechoic darkness, my respiration is amplified tenfold. I know she'll come on, and she'll be the same old video vixen. That is the most horrifying part, the certainty of it all. No surprises, no viruses, just spool upon spool of wound reel-over plastic, currently zooming over an optical drum at a few hundred rotations a second. Hello, I whisper as the film starts. This time there are no disturbances. I'm aware of the chair behind me and the general room around me, though my mind is still whisked far away and my concentration on the events presented before me is nearly absolute. The candy falls to the floor and spills. I'll clean it later. Joyce gets up and walks out the door, the same door I saw earlier leading out to the yard. She beckons for the camera to follow her, and like an obedient pet, it does. I now catch a new perspective. On the lawn is a white trash bag, framed ever so quaintly by a hedge of juniper bushes and a lattice fence. This suburban paradise is disrupted by Joyce's footsteps on the lawn. She nears the trash bag, kneels over and touches it, looks at her hand almost in disbelief. There's something inside, something large. Overhead, an airplane can be heard. She leaves the scene and I am left staring at the bag and its mysterious contents. The camera operator is silent. I wouldn't be surprised if she rigged it to look as if there was someone behind it. She's clever. She reappears on the right of the frame for a few moments, carrying a shovel and a barrel. It's heavy, going by how she lifts it. She moves everything into a place and the scene is set. She lugs the bag over her shoulder and drops it into the barrel. A violent hissing sound is produced and a cloud of steam comes from the vat's insides. She cautiously backs away until the noise and fumes subside. She takes the lid and twists it on, making sure it's sealed. Then she goes to work with the shovel. For an indeterminate amount of time, she messes up the grass, creating a hole that's so deep she can step into it and disappear. Once she hears an abrasive clanking sound, she knows she's hit the bedrock and gives it a rest. She climbs out, then rests as the midday sun bears down and the juniper bushes wave in the breeze. Once she's taken a breather, she gets back up and piles the dirt on top, inspecting the grass and making sure that nobody will disturb it. She calls the camera over again, and it points down. and it looks like she's done a pretty good job. The lawn is the lawn, nothing more, and the area where the hole was covered is now covered with healthy turf. She looks into the camera, holds her hair and smiles, and then it ends. I think I know what was in the bag, but I don't want to acknowledge it. The next few days don't see the return of the crowds. They are business days, that I could explain it. An elderly couple who look like they've done some substances in their time. A bubbly college student who asks for the jumbo-sized popcorn. She doesn't know it's the same as large. And a local rapper who's put 10 albums out, none of which have sold. I don't play Joyce for any of them because my lawyer has yet to clear it. Now that I consider it, he hasn't been in his office as of late, and he hasn't returned any of my calls either. Probably bitter about something as usual. Around 3 I make a mental note to call him again as soon as possible. As the evening comes on and the street is shrouded in scarlet mystery, I become sentimental and turn on the old stereo in the corner. Ballroom stuff, light orchestral jazz, and a little big band tossed in there. I waltz around the lobby, admiring my life's work. I opened this portal a long time ago, and in that time I've never regretted it. The room darkens, the ether shifts again, and I'm alone in a void where things that would otherwise be neutral are now hysterical. I begin laughing like a madman until I hear the door open, and I find myself beside the desk once again. The tape has ended, and it's night. There is nobody in the room with me. From behind me, the stereo crackles without thinking. I switch it off. Deafening silence. Only the ticking of a clock. Outside, the moon is covered by an encroaching fog, and the lights become signals from beyond. I am alone in a room with a ghost. The ether moves just a little. If I blinked, I would miss it. But there it is, all the same. A minor dilation in time and space. The corner of a poster is slightly offset and the wall caves in. She's here with me. I realize as I stand completely still and my hands stick to the counter, coated in sweat. She's in here right now, and I know she's in here. And she knows she's in here, and she probably even knows I know. The lithe spectre, as I mentioned earlier, has been making small cameos around the premises for a week or so before now. Now she's approaching me at an unprecedented rate, making her presence known. Above me, the fan spins on, and though it spins, the air does not circulate. It remains where it's at. Outside I can see only one store window, one distant light in that dark abyss, one recourse for safety. As I stare, it turns off, and the sole occupant of the world beyond Joyce packs up shop. There will be no easy excuses tonight. She reaches the counter and grasps one kernel of popcorn. With her insubstantial fingers, it vanishes into nothing as it journeys down her invisible digestive tract. I can hear her shoes on the carpet, her dress rustling against the pane of glass, and I can smell her perfume. She is intoxicating and ever-present, and half of me wants to abandon my mind and leave this world before it crushes me, and half of me hopes to waltz with her on the street outside. She materializes before me. It is a slow process. On her end, it looks painful. She's only a few blimps of static, then it gets fuzzy, and she becomes a woman, though an ill-defined one. Her form is hard to pin down. It's hard to say where she ends and space begins, because she is a product, not a person. She is not living as you or I would define life, rather she is a collection of memories spouted by a madman on the edge of reality. She looks into my head and rummages around, and all while my face drips and my bones are locked in place. What do you like? What don't you like? Where are you now? She looks at me from a broadcast antenna on a lonely rural hill thousands of miles away, with those silent dead eyes. It's hard to read her. She could lunge at me at any second, but it never comes. She stands and waits. I'm reminded here of a futile carnival game I played once, a long time ago in my youth. Get the ring on the bottle, but the ring is only the size of the top of the bottle. Try as much as you want, but it'll always bounce off and you'll never win the big prize. Here, the prize is my sanity, and Joyce is the bottle, taunting me to take things one step further. She walks around a while. Her eyes don't focus on any one object, but as she moves she wipes thread after thread of reality from my field of vision. She gets behind the desk, crawls over the counter, and the popcorn machine vanishes. Then the cooler and the cash machine follow. buzzing out. She's behind me now, her fingers on the back of my neck, her hot electric breath turning my skin into plasma. She smiles. I blink and she sits across me from an old patio armchair. The year is 1993, and the house is from 1993, and the scenery is just as constructed as ever. We are spinning around in some drum operated by a mad god at a speed incomprehensible to the human mind, read by an optical laser and transmitted onto the screen for the universe to know but not fully comprehend. She is reclined and staring up at the sun. It is a calm day and the weather is slow, and the grass is lush and alive. 3 yards from my chair there is a large hole. On its outer rim there is a white plastic trash bag. 2 feet from that there's a barrel filled with a steaming liquid. Joyce pauses, looks over at the bag, and grins at me. Want to have a look? With a flutter of her eyelashes she beckons. I know you want to see it. Don't lie to me. I know you. You're a vulture. You live on the sick and macabre. You have no limits. What's one dead body? One hole filled with dirt. One pleasant day captured forever. She stands and sets her drink on the table, then looks down. As much as I don't want to, as much as every fibre of my being is telling me that I shouldn't, I succumb to the inevitable and follow suit. I join her at the edge of the hole, and she grabs the strings of the bag, pulls them apart. My eyes are drawn to the opening. Inside is the body of my lawyer, dismembered and deformed. He is screaming, but no sound is coming from his lips, which have been acidically charred. His scalp is bare, his teeth are loose. His arms and legs are everywhere. Though the sight horrifies me, I do not react. Perhaps it is a property of this dream world, this nether reality. Perhaps to react to the sight would break the script. Whatever the reason, I stand next to Joyce, and she looks into the bag, and my mind is devoid of thought. My body is devoid of action. She ties the bag shut and dunks it in the barrel. A violent hissing sound escapes. The year is 1993, and I'm witness to a murder. Joyce takes her shovel and fills up the hole, taking extra care to keep the grass flat and featureless, knowing that the hole is so deep that nobody will find it, that her husband has been plucked from the future and brought to the past, that at last she is at peace. She watches me with a quiet look. We have a mutual understanding now. The year is 1993, and Joyce fades into the background. So much static, and so many particles across a cathode ray. It is the present, and I am standing behind the counter. The fog remains, but the theatre burns like the edifice it is to the ground. It shouldn't burn with such ferocity, such intensity, given the condensation, but it is a portal, and it is also a kind of hell, so the method of disposal is fitting. I stand outside with a book of matches and the last drink in my hand, the only proof that the establishment ever existed. I watch as the building crumbles, and I run while the fire engine comes round the corner to collect the remains. It will be their funeral, I think, as I run round the corner, take a long cold swig, and dash into the night, perhaps forever. Time will move on, the last boards will be carted off on an ambulance stretcher, and memory, like all things, will give way to an uncertainty and confusion. In time, I too will become a celluloid spectre. I'll be found in a closet, and I'll be tested and printed. And if luck serves me, I'll be remembered in some small way. I round the corner, and she is there to greet me, taking my hand as we journey together into the unexplored night. The street ends, and the world fades away, and we're left with the only memories of the world we knew, and the eternal blue mist, the ether of yesterday, and the ether of tomorrow.